Yes, ma'am. Rumadev, ma'am. You can unmute and talk. You raised your hand. Rumadev, ma'am.
I'll just unmute. Yeah, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. Means lot of takeaway from your sessions. It was, I could never even imagine that so much I could at least take away from your sessions. So I took this opportunity just to tell you a big thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and other than that is yesterday when you called my name to put a presentation, it was beyond 4. My connection got snapped.
I could guess it. Yeah. It's not a problem, ma'am. You can put the activity in the.
I had sent it yesterday evening only, ma'am, in the mail.
To that mail.
Yeah, in the
CD.
mail.
Okay.
Yeah,
then it will be taken care by the members. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely, ma'am. We will consolidate and we wanted to submit.
Okay.
Thank you so
but
much.
It was a different case study. That is why I thought of just sharing with you.
Sure, ma'am. Definitely. It is nice. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So sharp at 9:30, we will start the session. Chief guest, today's speaker is already on the platform. So at 9:30, we'll shortly we start the session. Thank you.
கொஞ்சம் மௌனமாய் மின்மேனி இன்றோ நீ ஒரு பெண்மணி. சாதனை பெண்ணே நீ பாபா முன்னே, சோதனை வந்தால் நீ தகர்த்திடு கண்ணே. சாதனை பெண்ணே நீ பாபா முன்னே, சோதனை வந்தால் நீ தகர்த்திடு கண்ணே. எட்டு திசை முட்டும் வரை திரண்டிடும் முன் புரட்சி அலை. ஆட்டி வைத்த கரமெல்லாம் ஆளச் சொல்லி உன்னை அழைக்கும் நிலை. சாதனை பெண்ணே நீ பாபா முன்னே, சோதனை வந்தால் நீ தகர்த்திடு கண்ணே. சாதனை பெண்ணே நீ பாபா முன்னே, சோதனை வந்தால் நீ தகர்த்திடு கண்ணே. ஓ ஓ ஓ எழுந்தாய் பெண்ணே வேதை என பழித்தோர் முன்னில் மேதையாக உலகில் வாழும் பெண்ணே. ओ सदके मैं जावा मेरी दिल जानिया, मैं शीश झुकावा मेरी दिल जानिया. तेरे नाम जो कर जावा कम है वो. तू सारे जहां से प्यारी मेरे भारत की बेटी है, सारे जहां पे भारी मेरे भारत की बेटी. दिल जान है शान हमारी मेरे भारत की बेटी. जीती रहो जीतती रहो. जो तेरे नैनों से टपके हर आंसू है अपना, जो तेरे होठों पे ठहरे वो गीत अब अपना. जो सीना तान के तू चल दे उठता है सर अपना. जा जी ले अपनी जिंदड़ी सर पर हाथ है अपना. तेरा जो भी है सपना अब जिम्मा है अपना. सपने सच करने की तेरी बारी. तू सारे जहां से प्यारी मेरे भारत की बेटी है, सारे जहां पे भारी मेरे भारत की बेटी. दिल जान है शान हमारी मेरे भारत की बेटी. जीती रहो जीतती रहो.
You go time. Ramya. Yeah, you are muted.
Yes, ma'am. A very pleasant good morning to all the participants and to the speaker of the day. I'm really very happy to invite Dr. Priyamvadha ma'am, who is a professor in the Department of Criminology, University of Madras. We are happy to have you, ma'am, for the session. Ma'am teaches the course Human Rights and Criminal Justice Administration, where she executed several projects, including old age homes, earn while you earn scheme, violence against elderly, human rights education, students' perception on aging, prevention of elder abuse, genocidide, Devadasi system, terrorism and internal security, and female infanticide and feticide. Some of her notable publications are Elderly Victimization, Genocidide, Crime Mapping and GIS, E-Waste, Half Widows in Kashmir, Representation of Women in Media, Victims of Terrorism, etc. Some of the invited lectures are familial resettlement of delinquents, victims of armed conflicts, crimes against women, elderly and caregiver stress, wrongful prosecution. She has several awards and distinctions, which include SDNB Achievers Award and Memorial Medal, Indian Society of Victimology Award, Indian Society of Criminology Award, Earthridge Fellowship, Catholic University, Guvion Junior Scientist Award, Indian Society of Criminology, JRF UGC. She is also a member of several professional bodies and academics and has made academic visits abroad, USA, Australia, Singapore, Netherlands, Belgium, France, and Qatar. We are really happy to welcome you for this session, ma'am. And participants, I'm sure you will be really enthralled with her presentation because she gives us a lot of data about how to approach and what kind of violence is committed against women and how to approach and what are the laws related to it. Ma'am, we are happy to have you, ma'am. The platform is all yours.
Welcome, ma'am. It was a great pleasure to have you here again. Like last time, people will enjoy your session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, madam, for your kind words. I'm really happy to be here. As madam said, this is the second time I'm speaking to the participants of SRM. And I know some of the sessions I've seen the program schedule, and it's very interesting. Some of the sessions.
One thing I wanted to tell you, the actually organizing team is from SRM, but people are from different states of India. More than 18 states people are there.
Yes. So last time also I enjoyed the session because it was very interactive and a lot of questions were there, and we had discussions on the topic which was assigned to me. So I hope this time also it should be an interactive session. I would love to get more questions from the participants. Ma'am, how much time I have for the presentation and how much time for the question?
There is no restriction on that. Up to 11:15, it is 11:15 you can go. Maybe by 11, if you can close, 15 minutes we can have interactive sessions. Okay. Otherwise also it's not a problem because yeah, they have enough. That schedule is very tight, ma'am, for you also. I know, I understand. So it is, you can manage, ma'am, whatever time you wanted to. 11, up to 11 you can.
To 11 o'clock I can, and as you said, 15 minutes of question and answer session we can have after the session. And of course, I know many of the participants from other states who are eager to learn many things from, especially the SRM is known for organizing a lot of interesting programs with very innovative themes, especially the themes which I've seen in the program schedule of this program is very interesting, and I myself was interested in attending some of the sessions. It's really interesting, and I would like to congratulate you also, madam, and the team who is organizing this program, especially
Esteemed.
madam and Ramya madam and Durga madam. So you're all very dynamic ladies who are very enthusiastic in organizing this. So as a member of the Madras University, it's a privilege for me to talk in front of the participants. Thank you so much. We'll start the session now. So I'll try to share the presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. You can go. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
The topic given to me is on prevention of sexual harassment. So before going in for the topic, I thought I can just brief you what is sexual harassment, what is harassment, or what is sexual violence, and then we'll go for the general definition about sexual harassment, and then what is the global perspective, what the international level initiatives being taken in this regard, especially relating to sexual harassment, because this is a very what do you call, very sensitive kind of issue which is going around the world, and across the world people are facing a lot of issues relating to this, and there is a downfall of work force by women. So these things like the statistics relating to global perspective, the statistics relating to India, so all those things we are going to discuss. So as a framework for today's presentation, I thought I can just brief you about the general definition and then the global perspective pertaining to sexual harassment, then Indian legislations. What are the legislations which deal with the sexual harassment? Is there any particular legislation which deals with sexual harassment, or are we dealing this kind of a harassment only with the what do you call, Indian Penal Code, or is it as exclusive legislation to deal with it? All these things we're going to see. Apart from that, what the definition, if there is a special legislation, so what is the definition given in the special definition, I mean special act, and then who's an aggrieved woman, who is a person who is a victim of this kind of harassment, and what is workplace, we are talking about sexual harassment at workplace. So what is workplace, that also we are going to see according to the legislation, how they define workplace, and how they define employer, how they define employee. Is it confined only to the organized sector, or is it confined, it broadens even to the unorganized sector? What is it, what the law says about it? And another important aspect we are going to discuss here, the types of sexual harassment. What are the different types of sexual harassment we are going to see? Is it verbal, is it physical, or what kind of sexual harassment women face, and how do we look at sexual harassment? Is it a subjective matter? I perceive sexual harassment in one way, but the men or the other people or the employer perceives sexual harassment in another way. So what is the perception of people towards sexual harassment? What is the stand of the Supreme Court or High Court or any apex court for that matter in this regard? So that has also been, I thought I can also discuss a few things about how do we perceive sexual harassment. And apart from that, what is actually sexual harassment? How can you say that this particular act is a sexual harassment in a working environment, and what not constitute as a sexual harassment? So we may think that this is a sexual harassment by an employer, but some of the certain things are excluded, and they say that it will not be constituted under the concept of sexual harassment. So those things also we are going to see. And apart from that, we would have heard about Me Too movement. So a lot of hue and cry across the world about reporting about sexual harassment or venting out what has happened to them. So those discussion, few arguments on Me Too movement also we will have. And then what are the redressal mechanism? I said there is a legislation to prevent sexual harassment. Is there any legislation? Is there any redressal mechanism by which women can go to the court, or women can go to the commissions, or what kind of mechanism we have to report sexual harassment? Because many of the problems, like in sexual harassment, the problem is people don't come up to report sexual harassment. This is a very sensitive issue due to a lot of reasons, like I'll be harassed further, or the victim will be blamed for what has happened, maybe because of her dressing sense, or because of her body language, or how she behaves in the workplace. So all these things will be taken into consideration while deciding the case about sexual harassment. So people, generally women, they don't come up with what has happened in their working environment. So those things also we will discuss about how what kind of redressal mechanism we have, and then if a person is a victim, how she can go and report, what are the mechanism we have to report, and what kind of compensation she can get out of it, whether she can get moral support, or any kind of financial assistance she can get. What is the support she's going to get out of the mechanisms we have. And then of course, obviously, the topic is about prevention. We are going to talk elaborately about the preventive steps, or the measures to prevent sexual harassment. What are the different kinds of preventive measures we have for sexual harassment? So that aspect will be of more that can move a lot of discussion in this session, I believe. And then of course, the general suggestions or recommendations given to the government, to the public, to the employer, to the victims, to the police, to the other enforcement agencies. So the what are the different kind of things we can do, suggestions or recommendations to be given to prevent this kind of harassment. So this is the basic framework. This is going to be the basic framework for the next 1.5 hours I'm going to talk about. And if you have any questions or any clarification in between also, you can stop. Of course, this is invited lecture. That's okay. If you have any questions, you can stop me and you can clarify then and there, and then we can move on to the, because we are all teachers. So there's no hard and fast rules here. So you can abruptly stop me and say that this is right, ma'am, this is wrong, ma'am, and I mean, if you have anything contradictory, if I say something contradictory of what is really existing, then you can stop me and we can argue and we can move further. So with this
Madam Savita Naren, she has raised her hand. Ma'am, you can unmute and talk, ma'am. Savita, ma'am.
Savita.
Savita. You can unmute, ma'am. I think, one second. I think now you can unmute.
Yes.
You can unmute and talk.
Savita, madam, yes.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes.
Ma'am, is verbal abuse is included in the sexual harassment? Verbal abuse. See, sometimes it can be a female to female.
Yes. Verbal abuse is also there. Physical, and of course, we are going to talk about I'm going to talk about the different types of abuses, different forms of abuse, which is considered under the Sexual Harassment Act. Of course, not only verbal abuse, even non-verbal abuse, like the gestures or the body language or whistling. So many forms. I'm going to talk about the forms also, Dr. Shavita. In case if you have any questions more than what I have said about the types of victimization, we can again discuss. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So as far as the general definition for sexual harassment is concerned, so it is about 1 minute. I'll just minimize this. Okay. So the general definition is, this is a dictionary definition. It says, uninvited and unwelcome verbal or physical behavior of a sexual nature, especially by a person in authority towards a subordinate, such as an employee or student. This is a very, very, very common definition, very general definition. Of course, we have reframed this definition in a very concrete way in our own legislation. So we are going to talk about what is the definition given in the legislation also a little later. So what is sexual harassment seen, how it is perceived at global level? So in Germany, a survey was conducted that indicates that 93% of working women were victims of sexual harassment as of 2019. You see the number, the percentage of people, women working in the working environment, 93%. It's almost more than half of the population, women population who are working in a sector is abused. So nearly 6 out of 10 nurses in Australia, they've experienced sexual harassment. These are all the reports from various countries, different kinds of studies being done, or different kinds of reports by agencies which are dealing with sexual harassment, or enforcement agencies who are dealing with sexual harassment. These are the statistics. This gives you an idea that this is not a problem only for India, but it is a problem across the world. And in USA also, over 50% of the women employee being sexually abused. And in Canada also, 51% of women reported having sexual abuse. So almost all the countries have at least 50% of the women were sexually abused. And if you see the Asian countries, I mean, they are the biggest populated countries in the world. No? So if you see just the Asian countries in India alone, a woman is harassed every 12 minutes. This is the statistics which says, according to the National Crime Records Bureau, we have the official statistics called National Crime Records Bureau, which says that nearly 12, one woman in 12 minutes is abused in uh, workplace. In China, a survey was conducted by Women's Watch China in 2018, which found that 20% of the women out of 1,837 respondents, 20% were sexually abused. So the study reported that only 46% of the victims took up the issue with the harasser, and only 34.3% reported the harassment to managers, which means the reporting behavior for harassment is very, very, very less. Which means, the women who are harassed, they are not able to come out with what they are undergoing, and it is because of a lot of reasons, maybe cultural reasons, maybe she may be scared about the employee, she may be afraid of whether she will lose job. Out of fear also, she won't come out, or a lot of issues are there. Because of that, in many countries they don't come out of it. Whatever complaints they have received, this is the statistics which reflects many people, many women are harassed. And then even in Hong Kong, there are a lot of studies done on the issue of sexual harassment, and 1/3 of the victims were men. They also say that not only women, even the men employees are sexually harassed. And 20% of female victims reported that harassment by managers. And then 6%, they say, male victims reported their grievances because they felt too embarrassed to face this, because they feel that, I'm abused by my women colleague. So this kind of, the women, when you compare the male population and the female population, especially the workforce, male population, they feel very embarrassed to come and report this kind of issue, but it is happening. And the there is an organization, Alliance of Women for Action Research in Singapore. They did one study in 2008. It also indicates that 54.4% of the respondents out of 500, the sample size for the study was 500, and out of that 54% have experienced some kind of harassment, and 58% female respondents, and 42% male respondents being harassed at workplace. So you'll be wondering, okay, because many of us don't believe that men are also getting harassed because of the women employee. So this is the situation in other countries. Men are also getting harassed. So, especially a recent study by the United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women revealed that 99.3, this is a very alarming kind of statistics, 99% of Egyptian women have experienced some form of sexual harassment. So, if a woman steps out of the house for work, then it is for sure that she'll be abused sexually. So this is the report, which is an alarming report. And a recent public opinion survey conducted by Egyptian National Council for Women, which interviewed 13,500 women across the country, showed that 85% of Egyptian women agree sexual harassment is a most urgent problem facing women and girls in transitional Egypt, despite the prevailing political and social instability in the country. Because women, for many years, for many centuries, they've been in the house, in the shell. They're just coming out of the house, and because of lot of transition, betterment, or globalization, or a lot of improvements or development in their own country, social instability was there and it's slowly getting stabilized, and political instability was there, it's again getting stabilized. So, in despite all these developments, women who dares to come out of the house and work are getting harassed because of this kind of issue. So it is, again, they say that there is an urgent need to tackle this issue. So, since we have seen a lot of countries are facing this kind of problem, there are a lot of initiatives taken in the international level also. What are the initiatives taken at global level? So, if you see the international bodies and legislations which deals with sexual harassment, not exclusively sexual harassment, this is a very general kind of international bodies which deals with many forms of abuse and human rights violations as well as discrimination. But apart from that, they also deal with some kind of at least one clause or one section or one article is on sexual harassment. So United Nations is one organization, one body which deals with a lot of issues. Can be women's rights, refugee rights, minority rights, or children's rights. So a lot of initiatives being taken by United Nations. So for first and foremost, one is UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it talks about harassment of women. Then Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, also talks about it. Then ILO also talks about it, and African Union and regional bodies, they also have certain clause relating to harassment. And then Organization of American States Declaration on the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Then UN Fourth World Congress on Conference on Women, Discrimination, Employment and Occupation Convention, that also spoke about it, and Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention. So they also speak about sexual harassment. So a lot of initiatives being not only taken at national level but international level also, regional level also, at continental level, right? Regional level, like Africans, they have their separate African Union and regional bodies, like that. Everyone takes initiative to stop this kind of menace. Otherwise, because nearly more than 70 to 80% of the workforce are women workforce. So in that sense, it's really important to take care and protect the safety and security of women. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Women won't come out, or it is very, you will create a kind of hostile environment for women to work with. So that is the reason many of the international bodies have taken this initiative to protect women. Then, what are the other kinds of sexual harassment and the punishments under the Indian Penal Code? What do we deal with it? So as a national at national level, what kind of provisions we have relating to sexual violence? Here I'm not talking only about harassment at workplace, generally on sexual violence. What are the sections deal with it? I'll just go through, not going in detail about each and every section, but some of the section, if it is very relevant and important, I'll explain. Otherwise, I'll just run through it. So section 354 of Indian Penal Code, IPC, talks about assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty. So again, there are, why I'm specifically mentioned some of the sections here is there will be arguments after my class. I thought I can just argue why police are booking the cases or registering the cases in IPC instead of Sexual Harassment Act. And there are also recent judgments which talks about why they're booked under 354 and 354A, why not in the Sexual Harassment Act. So for move that discussion, I thought I can just brief you about what are the legislations which, I mean, what are the sections which deals with the sexual harassment and sexual violence in Indian Penal Code. So 354, which talks about assault or criminal force to women with intent to outrage her modesty. If you see the punishment, it is 5 years imprisonment and fine. And then 354A, again, it talks about sexual harassment in the nature of unwelcome physical contact and advances or a demand for sexual favors showing pornography. Again, here 3 years of imprisonment and fine or both. So you would have, this is again another issue. Pornography is another important aspect we have to really look into, because now not only the adults, even the children are exposed to a lot of internet connectivity. And 2 years back we said no cell phones for school children. No, you are not supposed to take cell phones to the school. You're not supposed to use internet for watching movies. A lot of restrictions we had 2 years back. Now what is the situation? Even the LKG UKG kid, there is no other goal. She has to use the cell phone or the laptop, or she has to definitely, or he has to definitely use the internet for her studies. This is the order of the day. So in that case, lot of pictures, lot of obscene pictures, nude pictures, or videos, which are, you get lot of spam kind of videos or pornographic videos which is coming into the, as a virus, it comes into your mobile phones or into the, without your knowledge or with the knowledge of the children also, it comes to the, into the picture, into the mobile phones. So the pornography problem is another problem. Of course, I'm not going to talk about pornography because I have to take another lecture on pornography if I have to talk elaborately on it. So we're not dealing with it. But what I'm trying to say is there is a section even in Indian Penal Code to deal with this kind of offenses like pornography, the cybercrime related, and it is also reflected in other acts like IT Act and all. Then sexual harassment in the nature of making sexual colored remarks. Somebody asked me whether verbal assault is or verbal abuse is also an abuse. And of course, they say that here, even if we don't have a legislation exclusively to deal with sexual harassment, even in IPC we can book a person under this case. Then 354B, assault or use of criminal force to women with intent to disrobe. This is 7 years of imprisonment punishment. Then voyeurism, any man who watches or captures the image of a woman in private act without her knowing or disseminates such images. Suppose if we go to a temple or tourist spots, so somebody is taking picture of you without your knowledge, without your consent, then it can be, the person can be booked under voyeurism and 3 years of imprisonment. Nowadays, many of us, we don't go out without cell phones, right? So when you go out with cell phones, you're taking picture intentionally or unintentionally, you try to capture in the tourist spots the picture of other people. If you're posting those picture, if the person accuses you or objects you, then it becomes a problem. So that we have to be very careful in all these respects, because we don't know, we don't have the bad intention to do that, but because of unawareness, we are not aware of what the law says about it, so we commit certain kind of crimes. Then stalking, again 3 years of imprisonment. Any man who follows or attempts to contact women repeatedly after her clear indication of disinterest. Somebody stalks you, somebody follows you, or somebody irritates you, or humiliates you. So these are all the kinds which comes under stalking. So punishment is 3 years. The exploitation of trafficked child. So in case any child is trafficked or kidnapped for the purpose of prostitution, for the purpose of labor, whatever it is called, the punishment is 7 years. And rape. When a rape is a man penetrates his penis or a body part or object to any extent, or it applies his mouth, applies his mouth to a women's vagina or anus, or makes her to do so with any other person with consent or without consent in specific circumstances is called rape. So this is the basic general definition about rape, which comes under section 375. It's a very famous section because a lot of cases are booked under rape. And when you see the rape cases also, the number of cases in India is increasing as far as the rape is concerned. This particular sexual assault is concerned. Of course, it is alarming. It is increasing as far as the National Crime Records Bureau's Crime in India statistics. So the punishment for rape is life imprisonment, and the rape by 376 deals with the rape by not a general ordinary person, by a police officer or a public servant or a person who is in charge of a school or institution or home or whatever it is, who is an authority towards a women, or commits rape during any kind of violence or something like that. So the punishment will be more than the strangers. So here, life imprisonment, it can be, even in some cases, rape with murder, it amounts to capital sentence also, death sentence also will be given to the victim, to the offender. Then 376A again, rape that inflicts injury which causes death. So life imprisonment or even death sentence can be given. Sexual intercourse by husband upon 376B. So again, this can divert us into a different kind of section, like whether marital rape is an accepted one, or is it a crime in India. So we're not going into the details of marital rape here. So here they say that according to 376B, sexual intercourse by husband upon woman, wife without her consent during separation, during divorce or during separation period, if if he has a sexual intercourse with a woman, then it amounts to rape. Then sexual intercourse by a person in authority, as I said, police officer or doctor, or anybody who is in charge, or who, the women is in the custody of a person, and that person commits an offense, then the punishment is 10 years of imprisonment and fine. And 376D deals with gang rape, rape of a woman by one or more person acting in a group with common intent. And of course, recently also 2 3 days back also, there is a issue about gang rape is going on in Tamil Nadu, like in Parani, there was an incident. So again, then 376E talks about repeat offenders who are habituated to commit the offense again and again, or called as repeated offenders. So what is the punishment for them? And then next is the word, gesture, or act intended to insult the modesty of a women, that amounts to 3 years of imprisonment. And apart from that, there is also a separate legislation for the scheduled caste. The act is called the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Atrocities Act. It also has certain provisions, like promote Devadasis by dedicating a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe women to any religious institution. Of course, we have conducted studies on Devadasis in 5 states actually: Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Telangana. So we've conducted studies about the Devdasis and how the earlier form of Devdasi system, of course, it is still prevailing and in a different form right now. So many of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe women are dedicated to the temples, and straight away after dedication, they are taken to the brothel houses, and the system still continues. So this the imprisonment is 5 years. Then again, intentionally touches the scheduled caste women or tribe without her consent, again it amounts to 5 years of imprisonment. Then uses words or gestures of sexual nature towards the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe women, that also amounts to 5 years of imprisonment. So these are all generally, I've talked about different forms of sexual violence happened against women. I'm not talking here straight away about the harassment part at workplace. Of course, going to talk about it right now. So again, here also, even the POCSA, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act in 2012, this also has certain provisions. Penetrative sexual assault, they also talk about aggravated penetrative sexual assault. Then what is sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, sexual harassment, use of child for pornographic purpose. So all these things are there as far as the sexual assault is concerned. So, till now we have seen the IPC provisions and some legislations which here and there they talk about sexual violence or assault. Is there any legislation in India which deals exclusively for sexual harassment, especially at workplace? Yes, we have a legislation which comes under the local and special laws. So that law, apart from IPC, sexual offense booked under Indian Penal Code, there is an exclusive legislation to deal with sexual harassment at workplace. So what is it? Here, sexual harassment at workplace, this is a very what do you call, very interesting act. It has a lot of provisions. The act is called Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. It came into existence in the year 2013. So how it has came into existence? What is the purpose of bringing out separate legislation to deal with women? Why there is a need in India? Is there any reason, like whether the cases for sexual harassment at workplace is increasing alarming increase is there, or what is the crime trend? Why do we have a separate act? What is the background, how it has come into force? So all these things we are going to see. So sexual harassment at workplace is an extension of violence in everyday life and is discriminatory and exploitative as it affects women's rights to life and livelihood in India. For the first time in 1990s, livelihood in India for the first time in 1997, a petition was filed in the Supreme Court to enforce the fundamental rights of working women after the brutal gang rape of Banwari Devi, a social worker from Rajasthan. This is a very important, very landmark case called as Banwari Devi. So this person is a social worker. She was raising issues against lot of issues she was working on, and to suppress her or to discriminate her or to harass her. There was a gang rape, and she was raped, and this became a very popular case. And out of this case, particularly Banwari's case, so what is the outcome of this case? If you see the outcome, as an outcome of the landmark judgment of the Vishaka. Vishaka is an NGO which fought for Banwari Devi and others like versus state of Rajasthan. It happened in Rajasthan. So the state of Rajasthan is one party and the Vishaka is another party in the Banwari Devi case. Here, because of this case, because of this Banwari's gang rape, the exclusive act called Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act came into existence, and it was enacted wherein it was made mandatory for every employer to provide a mechanism to redress grievances pertaining to workplace workplace sexual harassment and enforce the right to gender equality to the organized sector as well as unorganized sector. That's what when I started my lecture, I said this includes for all people. I mean, when I'm going to talk about where and all you can imply or you can implement this act. So this covers the whole gamut of all employees, women employees, which includes organized sectors as well as unorganized sector. And of course, I say that it includes both. How far you can penetrate, and you can the law enforcement agencies can get into and file cases relating to unorganized sector. Of course, we are going to have discussion on it also a little later. Then Vishaka committee guidelines. So based on this, what happened? The Supreme Court has directed all the states to have a committee called Vishaka committee. This Vishaka committee is a very very important committee. Of course, I'm going to elaborately talk about Visaga committee guidelines. So this guidelines, it says about what is sexual harassment, what is the employer's obligation. If there is an employer, what are the things he has to take into consideration, preventive steps, recommendations. So all these things are put under the one umbrella called the Vishakha guidelines. So we are going to see that also. And of course, it is your this FTP program is conducted by the ICC, Internal Compliance Committee, which deals with all forms of redressal mechanism, and that also deals with the sexual harassment. So, what are the major factors leading to sexual harassment of women at workplace? They're talking about sexual harassment, but what is the reason why men are abusing women or women are abusing men? So, what is the reason for sexual harassment at workplace? Not only workplace, but also in workplace there are harassment. Why? What is the reason? What are the factors relating to it? So, if you see the biological factors, there are 4 factors. I mean, this is again, it is not an exhaustive list, but apart from that, so here biological factors, sociological factors, psychological factors, and lack of legal provisions. These are the some of the factors which are major factors which we are going to discuss. And apart from that, we also have a lot of factors. I'm not going to talk about all these things because this lecture's main focus is on prevention. So biological factors, as well as as far as the biological factors are concerned, people say that the higher level of a higher level of sexual drive in individuals, which make them to do commit this kind of crimes, like higher testosterone level or higher level of dopamine, or any other sex hormones which is produced in the body, no. So that leads to higher sexual drives in individuals. So they say that it is an argument to which is used to defend an individual. It says that because of the excessive secretion of hormones, this person is committing this kind of crime. This, of course, it is not an admissible argument in the court, but still, again, sociological factors. What are the sociological factors which is claimed, like learned behavior? Crime is always, we always say that crime is a learned behavior. No one is born as a criminal, so it is learned from the family, or learned from the neighbors, or from the acquaintances, or from the peer group. So like that, it's a learned behavior. There is a theory in criminology which talks about crime is a learned behavior. Sutherland, there is a person, the person is the propounder of the theory called Sutherland. So he says there is a theory which he propounded, that's called as differential association theory, which talks about crime as a learned behavior. So sociological factors, one important factor is it is a learned behavior. The employee learns to commit crime. Again, the victim, when he becomes, or she becomes an employee, there is, it's like a chain. It is a learned behavior. And then past history also makes a person to commit this kind of crime. And then male domination. So these are all sociological factors. If you take up this psychological factors, fetishism, exhibitionism, he wants to show his private parts, or like that. And then sadism, pedophilia. So these are all the psychological aspects. Then lack of legal provision. Before the legislation came into existence, cases were booked under IPC. So after the sexual harassment came into existence, again the cases are booked under IPC, and it is not booked under Sexual Harassment Act. Of course, we have little later, I'm going to discuss about why it is not booked under the Sexual Harassment Act, why they are booking under the IPC. Is there any more punishment in Sexual Harassment Act, or is it better to book under IPC? And in some of the police stations, they book they register case both with IPC as well as with exclusive sexual harassment of women at workplace. So legal provisions, lack of proper implementation of legal provisions also has a problem here. And now we are going to see the act, sexual harassment of women at workplace, what this act deals with. What are the things which is very important to discuss? So here, according to this act, sexual harassment includes any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior. So what are the different kinds of acts which comes under sexual harassment? First one is physical contact or advances, any kind of physical advances. I'm going to talk, I have a separate slide on what is physical contact. And then a demand or request for sexual favors, like if you just do this favor to me, then I will do this kind of favor, like I'll promote you, or I'll give you this position, director position, dean position, or whatever. Then making sexually colored remarks: you look very beautiful, your sari is nice, your blouse is nice, or whatever. So sexually colored remarks. Then showing pornography, so make the person to sit and watch porn movies or anything obscene kind of pictures. That's also sexual harassment. And any other unwelcome physical, verbal, non-verbal contact of nature, anything which is relating to, because the intention is very important here. The intention of the person to lure a woman is important here, other than the actual act. So the intention itself is can be categorized as, but again the problem is how do you create witness, or because many of the sexual harassment cases are happening within the four walls of the office, so no one knows about it, and the person, the victim also is not in a position to prove she's been harassed by the employer. So how can we prove? Of course, I have few arguments on that also. So, who is an aggrieved person? Who is the person who is a victim, or the person who is affected or harassed? So, aggrieved women is can be a work. She's a working woman and visiting a workplace, and then even students also come under this act. If any teacher or any non-teaching or administrative staffs, or anybody abuses her in the workplace or in the class or in the college, then that will also become that person will also be called as an aggrieved women. Then who are the women who are where are they working? So as far as the working women is concerned, domestic workers are also taken into consideration under this. Then regular or temporarily or ad hoc kind of daily wages, they are also come under this. Then for remuneration for voluntary basis, so they also, sometimes what happens, even in university we have women who are sweepers. They are all daily wages for remuneration, like per day they are given 150 rupees or 200 rupees. So those women are also entitled to get this kind of, she can also come and complain what has happened. Then employed directly or through an agent, through any agencies, like lot of manpower agencies we have right now, no? So you don't have to directly go to the employer and ask for employment, but you can go through the moderators, through the middlemen or brokers to get employment. So through agents also, if they are if they face any problem, she can. And then contract worker, probationers, trainee, apprentice, called by any other such name. You can't say that no, she's not an employee, she's just an internship. A person who is doing apprentice or doing internship, so she cannot claim that she's an employee of this organization. So she can be harassed and she can't give complaint. No, you can't say that. This covers everyone. And then, so what is a workplace? Again, this is also an elaborative kind of definition they've given. It covers everything. A workplace is defined as any place visited by an employee arising out of during the course of employment, even including transportation or undertaking such journey. So if somebody is working in Tamram, she wants to go to Thiruvanmiyur. So there is her office is in Thiruvanmiyur. So she is traveling from a cab from Tamram to Thiruvanmiyur, which means during the travel, she is under the control of the employer. So, which means during travel also, if she faces any kind of assault by the driver or anybody relating to the office, even there, that place is that vehicle is considered as a workplace. So this is a very elaborate definition, really, because people employers, no, they say that no, that cannot be we cannot be accountable for that, because that will not come under the purview of a workplace. No, then you can't say that, you can't escape. Then as per the definition, a workplace covers both the organized as well as unorganized sector. It also includes all workplaces, whether owned by Indian or foreign company having a place of work in India. Many of the complaints, they said, no, 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 this lady is working in a multinational company, so that will not have jurisdiction in local police station to give complaints. No way. Even if it is a foreign company or an Indian company, if a woman is harassed, she can go and complain. Then government organizations, including government company, corporations, cooperative societies, all these places can be called as workplace. Then private sector organization, ventures, then societies, if somebody is working in a trust or NGO or service providers, so providing services which are commercial, occasional, educational, sports, professional, entertainment industry, industrial, health related, financial activities, including production, supply, sale, distribution, all these industries come under this the purview of workplace. Then hospitals, nursing homes, then sports kind of sports institutes, facilities, then places visited by the employee, including while on travel, including transportation provided by employer. Then a dwelling place or house. Like domestic workers, they work in houses. No, they don't have the employer. Who is the employer? The owner of the house is the employer. So it covers everyone. This act is a very wonderful act. It covers everyone, every woman who is working. So who is an employer here? Again, you can't say that, no, 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 I don't have an office to run across, so I am not an employee. Somebody is coming and going. No, you can't say that. Even if it is a very small organization, if you employ somebody just sweeping the floor and mopping the floor, then you're called as an employer. So who is an employer? So workplace of government bodies or local bodies, then private workplaces, dwelling houses, then under the workplace you have a head or officer specified, or like head of the department or professors, whatever it is. Then in the private spaces you have a person responsible for management, or superintendents can also be called as employer, and the person who employs benefits from the employment. So whoever it may be, it can be organized, unorganized sector, like construction industries. The masons, the mastries are the employers, or the person who's constructing the building or the employer. So they can be charged against whatever has happened in the working site, in the construction site. So you can't say that it should be a closed office or like a kind of IT office. No, it is not like that. Even if it is within with a minimum of 10 people who are working in that area, it can be considered as a workplace, and the person who is employing the women is called an employer. And then, so as far as the types of sexual harassment is concerned, what are the different types of harassment? So sexual harassment manifests itself in different forms. One is verbal harassment, or by verbal kind of contact, non-verbal, and then physical. Then the fourth category is a very interesting category, which is called as quid pro quo. We are going to see that. So some examples are like physical contact. I said I'll brief you what is physical abuse or physical kind of contact. Here they say that physical violence. What are the different kinds of physical violence? Rape or attempted rape. In sexual harassment case, they say physical. If it is a physical contact, then physical conduct of, not contact, physical conduct of the person. So rape is one aspect, and then another is attempted rape, physical contact. You're contacting the person physically. And for example, unwelcome touching or patting, just patting and going, no? Stroking, grabbing, pinching, hugging, blocking someone's path for the purpose of making a sexual advance. These are all, this comes under physical contact. Then, what is verbal contact? So here, comments on a worker's appearance. Then you look very beautiful, you look very ugly, or you look thin, or you look fat, like that kind of words. Then age, you look very old for your age, like that. Or you look very young. Okay, you're 50, but you look like 20. So like that. Maybe the intention you can't say that it's a very passing comment, but for some people it's a routine comment. She doesn't bother, but for some women it's very sensitive and they take it to their heart, and it bothers her to do to perform her duties. So age, then private life, etc. Like sexual comments, stories and jokes, sexual advances, explicit or implicit kind of advances, repeated unwelcomed kind of social invitations, insults based on the sex of the worker, then condescending or paternalistic remarks like telling lies or spreading rumors about a person's personal or sex life. So these are the verbal conduct. It doesn't mean that the employer should harass her directly, but he can go around and say that, he can give a lot of nonsense talks like rumors about the sex life or the private life or personal life of the employee, of the women. So he says, no, 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 here this person is a single woman. She won't be in a position to accommodate any. So like that, any kind of rumors or any comments that also will come under this. Then non-verbal conduct, like display of sexually explicit or suggestive material, sexually suggestive gestures or stalking, means following a person, whistling the person, etc. And sending unwanted SMS or email containing sexual comments. This also comes under. You can't say that no, 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 I didn't touch her, I didn't say anything to her, but it's a kind of non-verbal conduct. No? If you're sending obscene pictures to her email, or any obscene messages to her SMS or WhatsApp or Instagram, whatever it is, then it comes under that. This is third category, which is called as quid pro quo. So, which means it occurs job benefit. I'll explain what is quid pro quo first. Quid pro quo is if somebody wants some kind of sexual favor from a woman, and he says, okay, if you come with me or if you date me, I can give you promotion, or I can make you like this, make you like that. So that's called as something for something. You give something, I'll give you something. That's called quid pro quo. So it occurs when job benefit, including employment, promotion, salary increase. I'll give you salary increase, you come with me. So salary increase, shift or work assignment, performance expectations, and other conditions of employment are associated with the provision of sexual favors, usually to an employer, supervisor, or agent of the employer who has the authority to make decisions about employment issues. And then the rejection of a sexual favor or request for sexual favor results in tangible employment detriment, loss of job benefit of a kind described above. So if she says, no, I will not, I cannot come with you, I can't date you or whatever, then she'll be, abruptly, she has to face lot of consequences out of it, like employment detriment, like loss of job. She may end up losing her job. So that can also happen. Another one is creating hostile environment. These are the two important things, quid pro quo. One, the person pacifies a woman to be part of her, or yes.
One second, ma'am.
Yes.
Shalini, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, you can proceed, ma'am.
Okay. So these are the two things. One is quid pro quo, which means the employer pacifies an employee, the women employee, and asks her to do some sexual favors to him, and then making her comfortable or making her to suffer silently, and then carry on his work. But another aspect of reacting by the employer is hostile work environment. He creates a kind of very hostile environment, very nasty environment, or very unhealthy environment. So hostile working environment involves uninvited or an unwelcome conduct or behavior, whether physical, verbal, non-verbal, leading to a work environment that is uncomfortable to an employee. Many times it happens, no? you make her to feel that this is a very filthy place to work with, so I don't want to work here, which means she will leave the place. She won't I mean, you make that environment a very unfilthy filthy kind of environment, so that she herself will resign and go. Or this kind of creating uh, this is another way of creating hostile uh, hostile kind of relationship with the women employee. And then sexual harassment is a subjective experience, which means how we perceive sexual environment. If I say that my employer has treated me like this, or he has passed a very filthy comment on me, but if I give complaint, the police or the complainant, the sexual harassment committee, they may feel that this is a very casual comment he has made. Why this woman is making very fuss, and why is she coming and giving complaint against that particular individual? What is the reason? What is the problem behind this women? So these kinds of issues will arise, because it is comparative. Whatever it is, whatever I feel as an harassment, the other person may not feel it as an harassment. They may say that it's a very casual comment. Why is she taking it up to the complaint level? She doesn't have to. She can just leave it and go. No. So this is this kind of subjective experience, or how I perceive, or the complainant perceive, or the employer perceive, or the people who are receiving the complaint perceive. So, for example, I'll just read it out. In 2010, the High Court of Delhi endorsed the view that sexual harassment is a subjective experience, and for that reason held, we therefore prefer to analyze harassment from the complainant's perspective. If I go and give the complaint to the police station, they have to see my perspective on the issue. They can't say that, no, no, this is a very simple act. Why are you coming and giving complaint? They can't say that. So it should be seen in the complainant's perspective. A complete understanding of the complainant's view required. So they have to understand me first, the complainant, and analyze and analysis of the different perspective of women and men. Different perspective. Men have a different perspective to see things, and I have a different perspective to see things. So conduct that many men consider unobjectionable may offend many women. So men say that, no, no, this is a very simple comment. Men tend to view some forms of sexual harassment as harmless social interactions to which only overly sensitive women would object. They say that it's very simple comment. Why are you taking so seriously? So women, they act. It's a problem because women are oversensitive. So this is the kind of comments they give. The characteristically male view depicts sexual harassment as comparatively harmless amusement. They say that it's a kind of amusement. So why do you call it as harassment? But women perceive it as an underlying threat to violence. So I perceive this as a complainant. I perceive, no, it's a kind of underlying threat to violence. He says it's a very general comment. So why should I allow this kind of general comments on me? So this is a subjective experience. So the High Court clearly says, no. Take the view, the perspective of women who is giving complaint. Don't take the other person's views. So impact of appropriate behavior. What kind of behavior is allowed? What kind of impact it can, the sexual harassment can have. So first is professional level and personal level. What kind of professional level impact it can have, and what kind of personal level. So if you see the professional level, decreased work performance. So first we will just see the professional level. So decreased work performance, which means I'm not able to, I don't want to go to my office, I don't want to work, which means you have a potential to work, but you don't want to work because of this unhealthy environment. Then increased absenteeism. I don't want to go and see that fellow's face at all. So I am not going to office. So you increase your interest in work. Increased absenteeism, loss of pay. Many times it happens, no? You have a stipulated leave of 12 days per 12 casual leaves per year. So if you exceed, that will lead to loss of pay. So loss of promotional opportunities will also there. You're not going for work properly, but you have the capacity to work 100%. You are not able to give because of the environment. So loss of promotional opportunities also. No. Instead of just fighting with this person, I don't want to get promotion at all. Many times women say that, no. So retaliation from the respondent or colleagues or friends of the respondent. So they say that no, why? I mean, the friends of the employer, they try to pass away and say that, why are you creating a lot of problems? So retaliation by them creates this women a kind of embarrassed situation. She doesn't want to go to the workplace, subject to gossip and scrutiny at one workplace. They'll say that no, this lady is one stupid lady. So why? Because of this lady, lot of issues are coming up. So she is a subject for gossiping and scrutiny at workplace. Whatever she does, no, there is a scrutiny for the work she is doing it. And being objectified, she's a person who is, okay, maybe a sexual objectification or a bodily objectification or whatever it is, commercial kind of objectification. So she's objectified, then becoming publicly sexualized. They publicly comment on her body or on her behavior, gestures, etc. Then defamation. So many times it happens, this lady is worthless, she can't do anything, she can't teach, she can't perform any activities, all of that. They defame the person. Then being ostracized, sometimes what happens, you're not you have full potential, so your employer knows that you have full potential, you will excel if you're given work, so you're isolated from the work, you're not given any work at all, you're ostracized completely from the work environment, which means if you're not given the opportunity to work, how will you show your potential? You can't, know. So there is an insecurity for the employer to give work to you because you will do better. So being ostracized, then having to relocate. So there are a lot of to transfer the person from one office to another, so relocation happens. Then, or the women herself feels that no, I have to relocate to some other city. I don't want to see this face again in my work environment. I want to go somewhere not near to this person. So job and career consequences, lot of consequences because of that, because of relocations, frequent transfers, lot of career impact will always be there, no? So that she has to undergo. Then we can support network. So this happens, what happens when there is a case, I mean, we always in criminology we talk about complainant's behavior, how do they come and give complaint. If it is a property type of offenses, say for example theft, if some burglary has happened in a house or some kind of robbery has happened in a house, the women or the men, they will immediately go and complain it into the police station. But whereas if it is a sexual assault or rape which has happened in the house, they won't. It is very difficult for women to come out of the house and give complaint that I've been raped. So why? Because the victim is blamed here. If it is a property kind of offenses, the victim is not blamed. They'll say that, yo, Palmer, what kind of women? This woman has very little property, but somebody has taken that property. So you will have, the women have some kind of soft corner from the society. Whereas in the victim, in this kind of sexual offenses, people will blame the victim and say that, no, this woman is capable of doing something. So that is why she would have provoked the person to commit the crime. So like that, she doesn't have a proper support in the environment. So even in the office place, women are accused of, for even being a victim, she'll be accused for being the victim. So she is the one who is responsible for that. So you don't have a support system, network around you in the workplace if you're harassed. Then personal. So what kind of personal impact she has, consequences? Depression. She goes, I mean, one thing is I've seen women who are continuously undergoing a kind of sexual harassment. Either they go to a depressed kind of state, or they'll be very aggressive. They'll just give left and right. So in both ways, it is dangerous. You can't take a neutral position at all. So that's the impact. So depression, anxiety, sometimes panic attack. Women sweat profusely if she undergoes this kind of problems. Traumatic stress, then sleeplessness. Obviously, she can't sleep. Whatever is happening, no, if the family she doesn't have any support from the family, what happens? Definitely, she will also. She doesn't have a support system at family. So shame, sleeplessness, shame, guilt, self-blame. She blames herself. because of me this has happened. I shouldn't have gone for the work. I should have just kept myself within the four walls or within the premises of my house. I shouldn't have go. So she self blames herself, and difficulty in concentrating. She can't. She's a highly potential person. She's the topper in the class, but when she goes for work, she can't concentrate at all because she's blamed for everything by the society, by the workplace, by the neighbors, or by the family members. So, lot of, she lacks concentration. Then headache, fatigue, always feeling tired, lot of loss of motivation. She's not motivated at all. Personal difficulties with time. She's not able to do whatever is. She can't meet the deadlines. Then eating disorders, feeling betrayed or violated. Always she feels no, 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 somebody is betraying me. That kind of feeling. Feeling angry or violent towards the respondent. She she's very violent even in her words. She reacts, and then feeling powerless. Sometimes the other way around. She feels no, I don't have anybody to support. So how will I fight with this man? So powerless. The loss of confidence and self-esteem. She completely loses. She completely derails and no confidence at all. Overall loss of trust in people. She doesn't trust anybody. She can't. She's undergoing lot of problems, but she can't talk to her friend. The friend may betray her. So this kind of loss of trust in people arises. Then problems with problems with intimacy. She can't intimately speak to a friend or a person or a well-wisher. Then withdrawal and isolation. As a result, she withdraws. No, I don't want to do anything. I just keep quiet, and if I have something to eat, like a very meager amount of salary, if I get, and if I have the peace of mind, that's enough for me. I don't want to go to that place and work. No. So many women, they come out and fight. How can they say that I can't do this? I will prove that I can do it. But many women say, no, instead of fighting with the stupid fellow, I can just sit at home and I can just live happily and peacefully. So these are the two ways women deal with it. So the second way of dealing with it is a kind of advantage for men who can easily throw women out of the competition. So that's also an important impact which has women has. So you may see that sexual harassment is a very simple kind of incident. No, it is not. It has its own impact. Not only this, these are all telling you about the professional impact and personal impact. It also has physical impact also. Women who are undergoing a lot of stress for many years, it shows on her body also. Because of stress, she gets BP or sugar or diabetic or any kind of internalization of this kind of problems. That leads to a lot of diseases also. So this kind of impact will always be there for the women who's undergoing this kind of harassment for many years, because women can't speak anything, or if she speaks, nobody listens to her. Nobody, yeah, she doesn't have a proper addressal mechanism to address her issues. All these issues makes women to be vulnerable for the situation, and she can't just leave her job and come out also, because she has to pay for her. She has to take care of her family. She's the only breadwinner in the family. So in that situation, she can't. She has to adjust and work. So all these things are there. These are all, again, this is not an exhaustive list. There are also lot of issues and problems because of sexual harassment. This is just an overview about what are the professional personal problems faced by women. And then, what are some of the examples of behavior that constitute sexual harassment at workplace? Some forms, when I take class, I remember, I don't know whether I have taken this in this group or for the FTP for SRM or for some of the. They said when I explained about certain things about on sexual harassment, they said, "Ma'am, most of the points it reflects me. I know it's going on, and I never recognize that it is a sexual harassment which I'm undergoing for many years." So these are all some of the behavior which we may or we may not undergo in the workplace. But when I read this slide, I always remember some of the arguments and some of the comments which I have received from many participants, women participants, say that yes, I also had. I never thought that this is a kind of harassment, but now I think I can recognize what is harassment. So this slide says making sexually suggestive remarks. like you look beautiful or you look this, that, and all. Serious or repeated offensive remarks such as teasing related to person's body or appearance. Your body looks this, that, and all. No? Offensive comments or jokes. Very offensive comments. Sometimes very. I mean, you can't take it. Then inappropriate questions, suggestions, or remarks about a person's sex life. You're not bothered about why the employer should bother about the personal life of an individual. So whatever work is assigned to her from 10 to 5, 5:30, whatever she can do, she can just do the work and go. She doesn't have to explain what is her personal life to an employer. Then displaying sexist or other offensive pictures, posters, MMS, SFS, and all. That's also another behavior. Intimidation, threat, blackmail around sexual favors. It happens, no? Intimidation, humiliation in front of others and all. Threats, intimidation, or retaliation against an employee who speaks up about unwelcome behavior with sexual overtones. He may say that, no, no, if you tell this to other people, I will tell you you are a very bad person or then unwelcome social invitations with sexual overtones commonly understood as flirting. Then unwelcome sexual advances which may or may not be accompanied by promises or threats, explicit or implicit. Any kind of advances, sexual advances, unwelcome sexual advances. Then physical contact such as touching or pinching, cursing, then kissing, fondling someone against her will, then invasion of personal space, getting too close for no reason, brushing against or cornering someone, and persistently asking someone out despite being turned down. So you come with me for dating or like that. Then stalking an individual, always stalking. Whatever she does, she's followed or she's, uh, I mean, always under the surveillance of the employer. Then abuse of authority or power to threaten a person's job or undermine her performance against sexual favors. So sometimes it happens in workplace, they'll undermine the performance, her performance, like whatever she does. No, 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 this is not right. Do it again, or do it again, or they'll give you. I mean, that work to be can be done only with the. I mean, if you have time like 10 days, so you're asked to give it in 1 day or 2 days. So you have the pressure to do it, but you can't do it up to the mark because of lack of time. So that can also happen. No? So they can undermine your performance. They can say that no, no, this lady is worthless lady. She can't do anything at all. Then falsely accusing and undermining a person behind closed doors for sexual favors. So behind the doors, they ask for favors and then they undermine a person behind the doors. You're useless person. So if you do this person, I'll make you this or that. Then controlling a person's reputation by rumor mongering about her private life. So they can say, okay, I know you have some problem with your private life or from your personal life. I'm going to tell it to other people. If you do this, I won't tell you. That compelling the women to do. Criticizing, insulting, blaming, all in public, like condemning an employee in public. Many times it happens, in meetings and all, she is abused. Exclusion from group activities or assignments without a valid. These are the things I come across a lot of arguments. I mean, a lot of comments like we have also gone through all these things. Not even the not physical contact or any kind of harassment, but this kind of harassment is very casual. For example, exclusion from group activities or assignment without a valid reason. You don't have to do this. You don't have to take this class. You don't have to give this lecture. You're not capable of doing this. So that group activities, assignments are not given. Statements damaging a person's reputation or career. So they may say that no, if she's given a post of a dean or a director, she can't do it. So you're damaging the reputation of a career, of the women's career. Then removing areas of responsibility, and sometimes it happens in education institutions also. No, sometimes for the dean position, you're dean for some year, and out of nowhere you're called and said, no, 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 you're no more a dean from tomorrow. Somebody is taking responsibility unjustifiably. They won't give justification for why they have removed you. Then inappropriately giving too little or too much of work. So one is too little. This is to isolate a person. So you will, if you don't give opportunity or chance, she can't do anything. And too much of work, heavy work, she can't do anything at all. Up to the mark, she can't do. So in both ways, it's difficult. Then constantly overruling authority without just cause, any no cause, but some kind of overruling. So you do this, do that, and all. Unjustifiably monitoring everything that is done. So sometimes when you're taking class, you'll be asked to see. Somebody will come and see how you're taking class. So unnecessarily they'll monitor you. Then blaming an individual constantly for errors without just cause. So for no cause at all, but always blaming the individual, women. Then repeatedly singling out an employee by assigning her with demeaning and belittling jobs that are not part of her regular duties. Sometimes what happens in many of the colleges and universities, I've seen women who are coming and working as daily wage earners, no remuneration, out of their poverty and their situation, they come for work. Sometimes I myself have witnessed some of the girls who would have completed MBA, MCA, and all. They come here as part-time piece rate employees. So because of their position, the other employees, no, the other clerks and other administrative staff, they abuse her in the way like, go and get tea for me, or they'll ask her to ask this person to go and give some files. Like they'll treat this person as a peon. So the girls who are highly qualified, who can perform very well, really they know that they can outperform these men, but still this girl is harassed. This kind of this is very common in many places. So what happens? This kind of harassment is very demeaning for the women, and it's belittling jobs that is not her part of regular jobs. And then insults and humiliations, repeated attempt to exclude or isolate women. So not many work is given to women, important decision making works, but women is not allowed to participate in decision making. Then systematically interfering with normal work conditions, sabotaging places or instruments of work. So whatever she does, no, so you're making it difficult to work for her. Then humiliating a person in front of colleagues, engaging in smear campaigns, like you say that no, so you shouldn't allow this person to work at all. She's worthless. Like that, in other front of other colleagues, you are demeaning this person. Then arbitrarily taking disciplinary action against an employee, always threatening a person to take, okay, if you don't do this, I'll take disciplinary action against you. These are all these things will come under harassment. Then controlling the person by withholding resources like budget or time, or even your increments, your salary increments are cut off. All these things are autonomy, training necessary to succeed. Even sometimes for us, like academicians, we have to undergo orientation training, refresher training like FDB, FP, TPs, like that. A lot of training programs and workshops. It is mandatory for us to get promotion. If you're not allowed to get the sufficient number of days, if it is offline, then you may have to take 7 days off and to come and attend this seminar in Saram University. So that's if you're not given the opportunity, if your head of the department says no, you can't go and attend this program, then it's a problem for you, no? So you can't succeed. That is what the final line says. Controlling the person by withholding resources and whatever is necessary, whatever training is necessary, for you to succeed. That training is not. You're not allowed to undergo all these trainings. This is also kind of harassment. Then we have been talking about, these are all the things which are considered as harassment, but some women, they take advantage of this and they say that I've been harassed by this person for this reason, that reason. So there are also provisions in this act to protect men employers about this kind of false allegations. So here the act clearly says uh, these are all, it may not be constituted as a sexual harassment. What is it? So following up on work absences, women say that no, I have this work, that work, always she is absent for work. So men can't say that she can't say that yes, I'm harassed. No, it's your duty to work, you're taking unnecessary leave. And then requiring performance to job standards. If a male employer says this is the standard of the job we expect, you have to do it. Like any other employee, you're also supposed to do it. Then the normal exercise of management rights. Normally, management has its own authoritative way of or friendly way of saying that this should be done or that should be done. So that normal exercise of rights can be allowed. Then work-related stress, like example, meeting deadlines or quality standards and all is required for the work. If you say that no, I'm harassed and I can't do this work, the organization can't perform, no. Then conditions of work, and then constructive feedback about the work mistake and not the person. So he may say that this is the problem with your work. He's not accusing you, but he's accusing your work. That's fine. So these are all the things which may not constitute as sexual harassment. You can't go and say that this is harassment for me and I'm going to complain against him. And there are also severe provisions in the act which says that if it is a false complaint, after a lot of investigations or internal committees inquiry and local committees inquiry, then if it is a police inquiry or if you're going for commission, that inquiry, and if it is proved that you have given a false complaint, then you'll be sued for whatever consequence it may be. So you have to be very clear, and you should be very clear before giving complaint whether it's a sexual harassment complaint or not. And then, of course, we all know about this movement called Me Too movement. It was very popular 2 years back, and uh, of course, uh, not only in India, in other parts of the world also, this movement was very famous. So the Me Too movement is an effort to effect social change organized primarily through social media, where it is often expressed as Me Too. Originally, how it has happened, how this movement has happened. In 2006, it became prominent both online and in the mainstream in late 2017, when several high-profile actors opened up about their experience with sexual harassment in the film industry. So during the early years, Tarana Burqa, an American social activist, began to use the phrase Me Too on the social networking platform MySpace to highlight the occurrence of sexual harassment, particularly as it targeted women of color. So first time this was used by Tarana Burqa. She's a women activist, and she said she openly talked about, she openly she has given her opinion in MySpace. There's a networking platform that's called as MySpace, and she said, yes, me too, I was also abused. Like that, me too, this hashtag was very famous that time, and particularly targeted women of color. And after that, many of the actors, like high profile actors, they took up this Me Too movement, and they came forward, and they gave a lot of complaints. Since then, the movement has provided a source of solidarity for women from all backgrounds who have experienced sexual harassment, most often, though not always, perpetrated by a male colleague. So here they say, initially it was started only by the actors which is in the film industry, but later what happened, many women from other different fields also, they came and they complained against many of the people who have harassed this women. So redressal mechanism, what are the redressal mechanism we have? Any kind of if I have any problem, how can I deal with this problem? So here, the act provides for two kinds of complaints mechanism. One is ICC, Internal Complaints Committee, and Local Complaints Committee, LCC. Every employer of workplace is bound to constitute in writing Internal Complaints Committee. So if I'm working in Madras University has Sexual Harassment Committee, which is then Internal Complaints Committee, which deals about sexual harassment. And then all complaints committee must have 50% of women representation, which means, men can also be there, but 50% women should be there. When the local committee is set up, where the internal committee has not been constituted due to having less than 10 workers, or if the complaint is against the employer himself. Suppose if you want to constitute a committee for an unorganized sector, you don't have enough employees. The employees itself, they're just 10 members. In that case, the district level, local level committees can be constituted to deal this issue. Common committees can be constituted to deal this issue. So the victim can also approach. Apart from this, the victims. If I'm a victim, I'm going and giving complaint in my college or university about the sexual harassment, but I'm not getting any kind of remedy from them. Then I can go to tribunals like National Human Rights Commission, NSRC, then NCW, National Commission for Women, State Commission for Women, SC/ST commissions. Then you also have One-Stop Crisis Center. One-Stop Crisis Center is a center which is established by Ujwala scheme. Actually, Nirbhaya Fund, they've created, the center has created Nirbhaya Fund. Out of that fund, they've created this one-stop center, crisis center, in which all the complaints, all whatever, I mean, if a woman wants to get justice, if she goes to the center, she can get legal assistance, she can get moral support, she can get medical support, she can get if she wants to go to the police station and give complaint, they will assist you to go and give the. So it's a one-stop center, which means you get everything in that stop. So this is also initiated by the central government. Then helpline numbers are there for seeking redressal, and helpline numbers. You have women helpline, child helpline numbers are there. If you just ring them, they will help you. They'll, according to the complaint, they will direct you to contact a particular NGO who can help you, or the police station who can help you. So these are all the basic redressal mechanism we have. And as far as the compensation to the complainant is concerned, so I've lost my job, or I've lost my promotion, I couldn't get whatever I was due to get. So what happens is the complaints committee is empowered to determine the sum to be paid to the aggrieved women. The complaints committee, at the time of determining the sum, shall regard to what are the things they can do. The complaints committee, if you're giving complaint, what they can do. The mental trauma, pain, suffering, and emotional distress caused to the aggrieved women. So I've been fighting. I've been running from pillar to post to get justice. So my peace of mind is lost. I have pain. I have suffering, emotional distress. So you have to compensate me. The loss in the career opportunity due to incident of sexual harassment. Because of this harassment, I lost my promotion, my career opportunity. Then I had to undergo medical expenses incurred by the victim for physical or psychiatric treatment. So I've been harassed for many years. So I can't. I have the physical disease, biological. I mean, it shows on me biologically, and it has a psychological impact. I had to go to psychiatric treatment, which is very expensive. So the committee should compensate for me. The income and financial status of the respondent. So based on the income and financial status, and then feasibility of such payment in lump sum or installments. The committee should direct the organization to give compensation to the victims. So what are the different kinds of measures to prevent sexual harassment? There are different ways you can prevent sexual harassment. What are the ways to prevent sexual harassment? One is implement a sexual harassment policy. So this is an important aspect. They say each and every employer and every organization should have a sexual harassment policy. So when an employee is employed in the organization, should be given all kinds of rules and regulations to be followed. No, in the rules and regulations and the payment, with the payment check, she can be given. These are the policy of the organization. So in case if you are harassed by any of the, Google does this. Google has a very good platform for sexual harassment policy. They say that if any of my employees are harassed, I will compensate for that. So like that, there should be a policy. And then for every organization, then provide regular training and information on sexual harassment to all staff and management. Many of the staff, they don't know. No, even in my university, if I ask the people, the women who are working as sweepers, no, if I ask if there is any problem, can you go and complain? They say, I don't know. I don't know what I mean, what kind of mechanism we have. So that this is the situation. So the management, if it is a private organization, the management should make sure that these are all the conditions. The women, if she has any problem, she can go and complain. So make aware that people, women who are working, she should know that if I have any problem, I can complain. Create a positive workplace environment. That's very important. So you have to work in a very nice and peaceful place. You should not have any problems. Like, you should have a conducive environment, conducive people, nice people to work with, nice environment to work with. So that gives a positive energy, and that will boost your potential to in a very exponential way. Then constitute the internal compliance committee. That's important to prevent this kind of committee, sexual harassment. To constitute a committee, this itself is a kind of deterrence for the employers who dares to abuse. And then establish complaints channels. Different types of channels should be there. If the problem is in the department, it should be done in the department itself. And then if it just go to the campus, then campus director or the deans should, like, I'm just giving an example in an academic institution. There should be different channels to take this complaint. And then support internal committee, complaint committee and inquiry process. So the employers, the other people also should support the internal, instead of supporting the abuser or the perpetrator or the offender, instead you have to support the complaint committee to inquire. And then encourage women employees and trade unions. If the woman is from the trade union, if she's associated with any associations working for the betterment of women, then I mean, uh, she should be encouraged to. Then, sensitize women employees to launch a complaint against employer or co-worker if she is harassed. To make them, you have to tell them that yes, if you are harassed, then you have a mechanism to deal with it. And then, what are the different suggestions? Again, it is part of the prevention aspect to improve the situation. One is need for proper implementation of legislation on sexual harassment. We know, I can say that we have enough number of provisions in the Indian Penal Code, enough number of legislations to deal with all forms of abuses and forms of crimes. But the problem is implementation. How far you are strong in implementing the legislations which is available or existing in the situation. That's a very important. So legislations, whatever it is, you have to implement it properly. For that matter, I can tell you many of the when we go for police training academy, police training institutes or prison training academies, we go regularly. We used to go and take class for them. So what happens if we ask even the level of we go from the constable level till the SP level. Different kinds of training programs are given for SI level. They'll just call for exclusive training program on human rights, and for DSP level they'll call us for doing program on women's rights, etc., etc. So when we ask them about some of the very important legislation, they will say, no madam, who will read all these legislation? We'll just book under IPC and go. So even though we have legislations, people should be even the enforcement agency, the police should be in a position to know this is what is there in the legislation. So he would have been recruited. I mean, the SI who is working in the department, police department for many years, he would have been recruited 30 years back, but he doesn't update. So periodical training programs should be given to them to update what are the new legislations came into existence, so that at the police station level he will be in a position to come. He will make a decision whether to register the complaint under IPC or under the Sexual Harassment Act. Now, for that matter, any act, even the Domestic Violence Act has its problem. They say instead of registering case under Domestic Violence Act, we never register. I mean, in many of the police stations, they say that instead of FIR, filing under the FIR, they just file the case only under CSR. That's a different story, different discussion about it. So we don't have, if you see the Crime in India statistics, the number of cases reported in particular offenses is very less. It's not that kind of offenses are not happening. It is happening, but the cases are registered in some other section or some other legislation which is not at all relevant to this particular offense. So the proper training should be given to the police officers. Then role and responsibilities of an employer. So the employer should know, okay, when I employ a person, I should make a women employee feel comfortable to work with, or she has her, I mean, you have to tell them that what and all she can do, and what are the do's and don'ts of the employment, I mean the regulations. Then policy pertaining to sexual harassment is an important component which we have already discussed. Then adopting a policy, you have to, I mean, it's not that you can just have a policy, you have to adopt. You should have a mechanism to adopt a policy. Then policy must be communicated. It's nothing, I mean, you may have, suppose, we'll give you an example. TCS has a very good policy, but it is not communicated to the employees at all. They don't know. The HR department should communicate these kind of policies to the women employees. This is not, if it is not done, what is the purpose of having a very good policy, but you are not circulating it into the employees? Then what is the, you have to see the mode of enforcement of the policies and the complainant channel, as I said earlier. So at the local level, at the department level, at the campus level, at the registrar's level, like that, you have to go, no? So what are the channels you have? Then steps to be taken by the employees. So periodical meetings should be conducted, whether any subordinates or anybody is harassing women, so that steps should be taken. And then suggestion to the public, if you, I mean, when I started my discussion, I said there is a outrage, or public won't accept this kind of sexual assault cases if it is given by the women. Women says that I'm a victim, they won't accept sexually related cases. Whereas public should be make aware that the woman is the real victim and you can't blame her for being victim. So suggestions to the public is like, you have to make the public aware that this is a problem. You have to react in such a way that if there is a case. Then suggestion to the lawmakers and the government, especially for lawmakers and government. Periodical amendments should come. For example, this legislation was enacted in the year 2013. During, now we are in 2021. In 2013, there was not much exposure to internet by the children. There were not much cases registered under pornography, not much cases on pedophilia, which is all cybercrime related cases, you know. So periodically you have to make policy changes, you have to make changes in the amendment, otherwise there is no point. So suggestion, you have to, I mean, the lawmakers should be aware that periodical changes are necessary to deal the situation, and the government should also make necessary changes. Like of course, I'm not saying that because we also do a lot of programs for policy making. The government, say for example, we have conducted one study, as I've already mentioned about Devdasi study. This was conducted by University of Madras. The NCW, National Commission for Women, they have asked us to give a proposal to do a study in 5 states of India and give it to National Commission for Women. And in turn, they were planning to give it to the Supreme Court for any policy decisions relating to Devdasis in India. So, like that, the government should also think positively and ask the commissions to work and ask the academicians to work, all these stakeholders to work on the particular issue to make policy changes. Then suggestion to the victims, particularly the victims should be aware that they should come forward and give a complaint. So many of the victims, they are afraid to come forward, and many reasons are there. If I go and complain in the police station about this particular person, or in the internal complaints committee about this person, then what will I do? If he takes vengeance against me, I can't work, no? I will lose my job, or I will lose my promotion. I have to, whatever is happening in the department, whatever is happening in my workspace, I have to keep myself very silent. I can't open my mouth. If I open my mouth, then I'll be targeted by this person. I'll be cornered by this person. I'll be sent out by this person. I'll be dismissed or suspended. So all these kinds of threat which curbs women to suffer silently. What happens if women suffer silently after 15 years, after 100 years? Women won't come out of a shell. I mean, women has a lot of potential to come out, but when you suppress a women to undergo this kind of harassment for many years, then after 50 years or 100 years also, it is very difficult for all women to come out and express or give their full potential to the outside world. If you see science and technology, many of the women who are women scientists are excelling really well. So what is the reason for it? You're giving a lot of opportunity for women to work in science and technology. So that makes women to show her potential. So opportunities should be given. So by way of fringy things like sexual harassment, you can't curb a woman's opportunity potential. Women, I mean, generally human beings have an enormous potential. You can do whatever you want, but being a woman, you have more potential. And if your potential is, because generally women are multitasking, you can cook, you can work, you can drive, you can do office work, you can do computers, I mean, you can work in computers, you can work in balance sheet, banks. So you're in a position, if you just write a journal about what are the work you've done from morning to evening, you'll be surprised to know all these are different fields, and you're able to compete with the all men, women, children, everybody in different fields, and you're trying to excel in all fields. So when I'm taking lecture, I'm just thinking about, okay, what should I have
Sorry.
done? Yeah.
Sorry, madam. Yeah, actually we started little late. I know you were ready with at 9:15 itself. We started little late, and now maybe participants are willing to interact with you also. Maybe you will conclude within 1 or 2 minutes, so that we'll give 1 minute for the people to think. Sorry, if I have
No problem. I can wind up.
Take my time. Oh, sorry. Oh, you were in the last slide. Okay. Sorry, ma'am. Actually, yeah, you have well planned, and so if we have started at 9:15, we'd have done. We also got
No
delay.
problem.
9:30 only we started.
No problem.
Thank you so much, ma'am. One, two chat messages already were on the queue, so I thought I can give some time for that too. One is from I think Ruma De ma'am, 85-year-old male patient tends to touch the private parts of the female attendants. Is it a case of sexual harassment? How to handle?
An 80-year-old male patient tends to touch the private parts of the female attendant. Is it a case of sexual harassment? It is a case of sexual harassment. She can, if she wants to give complaint, because it is happening in the workplace. If the attendant, if she wants to give complaint, then she can obviously give complaint in the police station or in the hospital also. That's not a problem. She can, yes, this can come under that.
Thank you.
Questions from the participants? You can unmute or talk, and or can message in the chat box. Thank you, ma'am.
Can I also ask?
Yeah,
can I
someone else.
ask another question?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask another question, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, an incident had occurred in my workplace where I was not at all involved, and I was not in that particular place also, but boss being a male, instead of catching hold of the person who was really responsible for this case, he had harassed me like anything for last 10 days. And it to an extent that I had to go to an advocate to come out of this. That in what way could I face this one? Like, and finally, like, I had to call that child and ask her that what has really happened. Then I had to record her wordings in my mobile and then show it to him that, sir, I was not at all here. This kind of negative remark was made by some other teacher, not by me. But he refused to listen, as he said that you are in the same department, so you are equally responsible. How to still now, I mean, feeling I'm still in that case, I'm still being harassed that whenever he gets a chance, he said that, though remember that incident, please don't repeat it. So I was not at all at that place. Even the victim, the girl child, had also admitted that ma'am was no more in the scene, ma'am was nowhere here. But still, till date, whenever he gets a chance, I'm being harassed. What to do with this, ma'am?
Okay. Madam, this is relating to a child's issue as well as using this incident to harass you. You can very well go to the, I mean, whatever institution you are working in, no?
Yeah, Delhi
You're
Public
working
School,
in a
yeah.
college, you can give this, give it as a complaint in the internal complaints committee. It's very mild only, not very they won't take very severe action as far as this case is concerned. You can tell them that you can make it as a record. I mean, further in the future also, he can't, the male employer, he can't say that, see, this person has committed this problem and I have many times warned her. Like that, he can't say no. Instead, to protect yourself, you give a formal complaint in the internal complaints committee, stating that you give an explanation. Not even I can suggest that you don't have to give a complaint, you give an explanation. This is what has happened, and I was not at all involved in this issue, but still I was harassed for that incident again and again. So this is for your protection. You make it as a record and keep it with you. In case if the person is harassing you further, then you can use this complaint. You can say that, yes, I have been harassed by this person for many years or many days. I have already given a complaint in the internal committee, complaints committee. So this is for your protection. You give an explanation to the committee and keep it in your file, keep it in your record.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
for further harassment can be curtailed, can be further, you can prevent the harassment. So you don't have to right now go. I'm not asking you to go to the police station and give complaint. No, I don't go to that level at all. Just give explanation to the internal complaints committee and keep it in your file. That's it.
Okay.
Then we'll see if you have further problems. You can show always this letter and say that, see, I have already given a explanation for what has happened, and he is harassing me further. So you will have a protection, no? Whenever, I mean, not only this, madam, even whenever any kind of complaint, any kind of serious issues, if you have to first exhaust your internal mechanisms. They always say, even in murder cases or even in any kind of serious offenses, they say that you have to exhaust your, which means you have to go for, in sexual harassment cases, you have to go for internal complaints committee. If it is not working out, go to the all women police station. If it is not working out, go to the commission, then go to the court. So there are levels. So this is the first step you're doing it. So immediately you can't go to the Supreme Court and file a complaint against this person. That cannot be done. So they will immediately ask whether you have explored all the redressal mechanism which is available in your institution. The first question will ask you. They will ask you. So for that reason, what I'm saying is, for your protection, just give an explanation letter and keep it in your file. Just keep it silently. Then, in case if there is a problem, you can always tell them that there was a problem. I had given my explanation, and it will protect you later. So that's what we have to be very careful when you're in public office. You need to be really careful in what you're doing. You have to maintain your files, and you have to be really careful in what your words are, what you're texting to, especially when you're dealing with children, girl children. So it should not be taken against you. So you have to be really careful in you're typing the messages and typing the words, or sending voice messages. So you need to be, if you're in public office, you have to be really careful about what you're saying, and you have to keep a record of everything, which means if you're sending a letter to the formal letter to mail to the students or whatever, you have to keep one copy with you. You have to tell them that this is what I've sent, and wording should also be very careful, so that people won't question you later.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
So
Thanks a
now
lot.
the recent school incidents and all, it is really, when they say this is the wording they used, because of that I am abusing the teacher after 6 or 7 years. Really, being in this teaching community, we feel so bad to.
Really, very true.
And we also lose interest. We will see that sometimes what happens, for the sake of children, we say something and the children are using against us. Then after that, what happens? Teachers say that, why should I bother? I'm getting salary. Why
Very
should
true.
I
Yeah.
bother? So this can also happen. We should not get demotivated
By this.
Yeah. Yes. So we have to be careful. We have to safeguard ourselves first, and then we have to take care of the children also again, and they should not feel bad about us. And many things are there nowadays because of this internet world. Whatever you say is a record. So you have to make a proper record of whatever you are saying. So that's important.
Okay.
One more question, maybe last question from Uma Mageshwari ma'am in the chat box. Please tell me how to handle verbal abuse at home.
At home. Okay, fine. This is out of. I mean, this is not under the purview of our presentation today. Of course, verbal abuse is a kind of. I always say that it is a comparative kind of word. So if something, and it differs from society to society also. Suppose in a lower class, I always give an example, Tamil example. But I don't know, because many of the participants are from different states. When we collect questioners, no, we used to ask somebody. I mean, the middle-aged people, or from the lower class and upper class, or different class, different groups. We ask, no, we'll ask them, what do you perceive if your son says, "Hey, perse," அப்படி சொல்றான். So which means, it's a very derogatory kind of word for a person who is coming from a middle class family. Same question if you ask the lower class, or in the people who are dwelling in the slums, the same question if I ask the person, the lower class person, I mean, he says that no, he's after all a son. This is a very common word. The usage is very common in my slum area, so it's not I mean, I don't take it as a abusive word. So it's comparative, and you have to take the perspective of the individual and the verbal. I mean, if I say that, if I feel yes, it's an abuse for other person, it's an abuse. Or otherwise, if somebody says and you don't feel that it is an abuse, you don't have to consider. Generally, especially verbal abuse, we say take the perspective of the person. If he feels it's an abusive word, it is abuse. If he feels no, it's very general, why are you taking it as an abuse? It's not abuse. So it is up to the individual level. But if it is not the case for physical violence, verbal abuse is different. But physical abuse, we won't take that way. Physical abuse is a physical abuse. You are getting abused, you are getting beaten up, you are getting slapped. So that's a different case. But verbal abuse only, it is the individual's perception. If you feel that yes, somebody is abusing me, you have to tell them that yes, I've been abused, please don't abuse me, I don't like this language, I don't like you to use this word against me. So you have to clearly tell them, slowly tell them, make them understand. If you repeatedly tell them that don't use that word against me, maybe probably after 2-3 times, if you tell them, they will not I mean, they'll understand and they won't repeat that word again and again. So that's the only way of further. But for research purpose, we always consider the perspective of the individual who was abused. They may say that no, this is not an abuse, then we will just leave it. It is not an abuse. We won't record it as an abuse. And in many of the Indian studies, we feel we come across this term verbal abuse. Generally, if you study the violence or abuse related researches abroad, we won't see this word verbal abuse at all. They'll use the word emotional abuse, not verbal abuse. Only Indian studies, we use the word verbal abuse. They only use it as emotional, because it affects your emotion, no? It's not affecting you physically, but verbal abuse, it affects your emotions. So they consider it as emotional abuse, not verbal. They won't use this term at all. Many foreign studies.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. And of course, I know even 2 hours, last time 1.5 hours, this time 2 hours. But even then, we know we are not able to manage the whole day session only we can take it.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. As you had presented, I was able to narrow down on one statement. There are wounds that never show on the body that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds. This is what women face right now. And eventually, and all these ages, we have been facing all this thanks to all these committees and to these and to the organization which has come out to motivate women, and to all the leaders like you and Dr. Pomar ma'am, who are there to talk to us, who are there to address our feelings, who give us the confidence that women's issues can be dealt across without any inhibitions or hindrances. And there are many people who have asked for your number, ma'am, and your mail ID. With your permission, can we share that to them?
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
a problem.
Okay.
As
Thank you
ma'am
so
said,
much for joining
it is please make sure that you know about your internal complaints committee in your organization. Yesterday, one person did a survey among the participants, and she was telling that many of them don't even know there is a committee. So that's what Priyamvadha ma'am was telling. Please go with the hierarchy. It is always, anyway, it is a lubrication. Not everything come by law. As ma'am was telling from that department, criminology department, she was telling it is so. Please make sure that people understand, as it is not that they, most of them, they without knowing they may hurt us. Let us give them the chance that they are doing the wrong things. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a wonderful session having you here. Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you, Madam Ramya and Durga, Madam. Thank you so much, and thank you, participants, for your patient listening and for pertinent questions relating to the session. And thank you so much. And we are also looking forward for many more collaborations from SRM and Madras University for further academic.
We will be in touch, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Participants, we will have a break now for 5 minutes. Okay, by 11:35 we'll join. We have our speaker for the next session with us in the